Argentina walked into this World Cup final with the best player alive on their roster, Lionel Messi, a former champion. 3 previous final heartbreaks already sailing in their own history books. And somehow, on July 19th, 2026, they added a third disaster to that pile. Here's the stance up front. That team quit creating chances long before the scoreboard ever punished them for it, and the box score proves it beyond any argument. For 90 straight minutes, the full first half and the full second half of the biggest match of their careers, Argentina did not take a single shot, not one that missed, not one that got blocked, not one at all. Nobody in the history of World Cup finals has ever managed that. Nobody. 0 shot attempts from a nation obsessed with attacking football in the one match that mattered more than any other. And by the time the final whistle actually blew, one Argentina legend had walked off in tears. One Argentina player had been sent off in disgrace, and Spain was lifting a trophy that, hours earlier, still technically belonged to somebody else. Let's get the final score out of the way first, because on its own, it lies to you. 1-0 Spain, in extra time. Sounds tight. Sounds like a fight decided on points, close enough that either side could have taken it home. It wasn't close, not even a little. Spain's substitute Ferran Torres finally buried the winner in the 106th minute at New York, New Jersey Stadium in East Rutherford. And with that single goal, Spain became the first nation on the planet to hold the men's and women's World Cup title at the exact same time. Nobody else on earth can say that right now. Argentina, meanwhile, walked away with nothing. Now, here's the question nobody seems to be asking loudly enough. How does a team built around Lionel Messi go through a full 90 minutes of a World Cup final without forcing a single moment of real danger? That's the question this whole match answers. And the answer, once you see the numbers behind it, is uglier than almost anyone expected walking into that stadium. Here's the number that should embarrass an entire footballing nation. 0. Argentina attempted 0 shots of any kind, on target, off target, blocked, deflected, anything, across the entire 90 minutes of regulation time. FIFA's own official match report confirms it in black and white. That makes Argentina the first team in the history of World Cup finals to go a full 90 minutes. 0 attempts from a squad built around one of the most decorated attacking players the sport has ever produced. Spain's goalkeeper never had to dive, never had to punch a cross away, never had to make one save in 90 minutes of normal time because Argentina simply never asked him to. Think about that for a second. This is a World Cup final, the biggest stage the sport has to offer. And for an hour and a half of football, Argentina's attack essentially did not exist on the pitch at all. They'd eventually manage 2 shot attempts once extra time began. But that's 30 extra minutes of football it took just to register a single attempt, after already surrendering the entire 90 minutes that mattered most. So how does a team with this much talent go silent for 90 minutes? Subscribe now, because the numbers behind this only get harder to watch. This makes it worse! This isn't new! This is the 3rd time! On July 8th, 1990, Diego Maradona lines up against West Germany in the World Cup final, and Argentina finishes that match without a single shot on target either. Just 1 attempt the entire game, a free kick from Maradona that sailed over the crossbar in the 38th minute. West Germany got awarded a penalty in the 85th minute and won 1-0. Maradona broke down in tears right there on the pitch at the Stadio Olimpico. Argentina also had 2 players sent off that same night, Pedro Monzon and Gustavo Dizzotti, a separate disaster stacked on top of the first one. 1 nation, 1 World Cup final stage, no shot on target, 36 years before anyone had heard the name Ferran Torres. That's not bad luck landing twice. That's a pattern forming in real time, and Argentina was about to prove it a 3rd. On July 13th, 2014, Brazil this time, extra time again, Germany waiting on the other side of the pitch. Argentina actually manages to get shots away in that one. 10 separate attempts across the whole match. But not one of them finds the target. Goalkeeper Manuel Neuer, in the 21st minute, drags his shot wide of the post and puts his head in his hands right there on the field, knowing exactly what he'd just wasted. Germany wins 1-0. Same story, different decade, for the second time in 24 years. And you'd think a nation would learn something from that. You'd think somebody sitting in that dressing room would say never 12 years later, never again turned into again. And this time it happened to the best player the country has ever produced. Lionel Messi played every single one of the 120 minutes in that 2026 final. He touched, and that one touch was the opening kickoff. One touch, 15 minutes. Spain's midfield swallowed him whole in the opening quarter of the game. By the final whistle, Messi finished the match with 54 total touches across 2 full hours of football, spread across regulation and extra time combined. A single touch inside the area where he's supposed to do his damage. His only shot attempt of the entire match got blocked in. This is a man who has spent 2 decades rewriting what's possible with a football at his fete, and Spain turned him into a spectator during the most important 90, then 120 minutes of his entire career. He walked off that pitch in tears at the end, and honestly, who could blame him? So why did Messi never get the ball? The answer is sitting in the passing numbers, and they are brutal. Spain attempted 896 passes across that final, completing 774 of them, a new record for a World Cup final. Argentina attempted 476 passes total, not completed, attempted. Spain nearly doubled Argentina's entire output on the ball across the whole match. FIFA's official figures have Spain controlling 60.2% of possession to Argentina's 32.5%, with the small remainder classified as contested. Spain's expected goals number for the match sat at 2.52. Argentina's sat at 0.13. 0.13 expected goals. In a World Cup final, that's not a team that got unlucky in front of the net. That's a team that was barely permitted to reach the net at all. Spain won the ball back 28 separate times inside Argentina's own half of the pitch, hunting them down before they could even build anything. And Argentina spent 50.5% of their total possessions pinned inside their own end, unable to even cross midfield with the ball at their feet. If these numbers hit you the way they should, take a second to hit like. It genuinely helps this reach more people who need to see how lopsided this really was. And then Argentina made an already ugly night even worse, entirely on their own. Midfielder Enzo Fernandez picked up a yellow card in the 82nd minute for dissent, already losing on every meaningful stat. Then in the 90th +2 minute, Depp into stoppage time, he picked up a second yellow card and was sent off. 10 men chasing a World Cup final against a team that had already dominated every category for 90 straight minutes. Argentina lost a tactical battle out on the pitch. Mate Leandro Paredes was involved in a confrontation after the match had already ended, during a brawl that broke out once the result was fully sealed, though he did not actually receive a red card. Only one red card from that World Cup final roster, shown to a player still on the pitch. One for a player still on the pitch. One for a player who couldn't let it go once it was over. The only reason that scoreline stayed level for as long as it did had nothing to do with Argentina's attack. It came down to their goalkeeper. Emiliano Martínez made 11 saves across the first 105 minutes of that final, throwing his body across the goal line save after save, while his own strikers stood watching helplessly from the other end of the pitch. Every save he made simply delayed what looked more and more inevitable by the minute. He was single-handedly keeping Argentina inside a match their own outfield players had stopped trying to win in front of. Spain kept coming, wave after wave, and Martínez kept getting back up off the turf. That's not a defense protecting a scoreline. That's one man holding a funeral off for as long as his body would physically allow him to. And eventually, even the best goalkeeper on the pitch couldn't stop what was already coming for his team. In the 106th minute, Ferran Torres finally scored the goal Spain had been yearning for nearly 2 straight hours of football. Once the final whistle blew, cameras found he did not hide behind the usual coach speak that fills these press conferences. He broke down in tears in front of the entire room. He walked out of his own post-match press conference early, unable to keep going. Before he left, he told reporters, quote, "Spain were the better side, that is the truth," end quote. No excuses, no spin, no blaming the referee or the bounce of the ball. The man in charge of Argentina's entire attacking setup looked at a stat sheet showing 0 shots on target and simply agreed with what it said. He still stood up for his players' pride on his way out the door. But the man actually running the team had already confirmed, out loud, on camera, in front of the whole world, exactly what those numbers had been screaming the entire match. So what does one match like this actually change going forward? Almost everything for Argentina. Almost nothing for Spain. Spain won a World Cup. They became the first nation in history to hold the men's and women's World Cup title at the exact same moment, a double crown no other country on the planet currently owns. For Argentina, this final now sits right next to 1990 and 2014 on the exact same shelf, a third World Cup final finishing with 0 shots on target, spread across 36 years of football, 3 different decades. 3 completely different generations of Argentine superstars, each one carrying the weight of an entire nation on their backs. Same result staring back at every single one of them. Maradona cried on that pitch in 1990. Higuaín dragged his shot wide in 2014. Messi walked off in tears in 2026. Is that one bad night? Or is that a nation's biggest stage turning into its most reliable nightmare? Over and over again, decade after decade, with its greatest players standing right in the middle of it every single time it happens. You already know the answer. So does every person who watched that final from start to finish. If this pattern stuck with you the way it's clearly stuck with an entire country, like and subscribe right now, because Argentina's history is full of nights exactly like this one, and there's a lot more worth uncovering. If this pattern stuck with you the way it's clearly stuck with an entire country, like and subscribe right now. Because Argentina's history is full of nights exactly like this one, and there's a lot more worth uncovering.